All right. Today we're here with Coach Blake Smiley, a legend in Madill football history, Madill community history. He was here for 20 years, started in 1973, played at Madill High School, and so we want to visit with him about his experience with Madill, the community, especially football. So Coach Smiley, talk to us about how was it being raised as a Smiley in your family, talking about your siblings. What did your parents instill in you that you've carried on through your life?
Well, one of the most important things that they talked about was getting an education. And I had 5 brothers and 8 sisters, and we all graduated here at Madill High School. And all of the boys in the family graduated from college. So that was instilled in us to get an education, and that way we wouldn't have to be on welfare, which is, you shouldn't be ashamed of that, but welfare, because some people need it. But that's one of the things about football that I remember. Was right here. It was on a Friday night, and I had an older brother that was playing. And I wasn't old enough to where my parents would let me get down and go play football in the end zone. But I remember the football game as Purcell was down here. And it was one of my older brothers was playing, and Purcell has red uniforms. And they had on red pants and red jerseys and red helmets. And I thought, man alive, that is the best, even better than the black and gold at that time. And I'll never forget that. I don't remember much about the game, but I do remember about the uniforms. And of course, that was one of the things that I wanted to do more than anything. I went to a country school before I come to Madill, and I was just really wanting to get on a pair of shoulder pads and a helmet and play football. And I got to start in the 8th grade here, and every year that I played, I started on the football team. 8th grade, I started in 9th grade with the junior high, and then my sophomore year, I started in the high school and played 3 years with a high school. And it was really something that I wanted to do. And you know, a lot of guys come out and dread workout. I was looking forward to workouts, and I did pretty good, and I had a little bit of speed with me and a lot of endurance, and that's what you need to be a good football player. It's not the size. The size is important, but it's not the most important thing. You know, you've heard about how much fight the dog's got in him. Well, that's the thing it is. It's how much fight you got in it to do well in high school football or college. I went on to college from here at Southeastern on full scholarship, and that was one time my freshman year I didn't get to start.
Freshman year was the only one reason?
That's on. And then my sophomore and junior and senior year, I was a starter on the football team, and made all conference my junior year in college. Here in Madill, they had a all-area team, and I made the all-area team my junior and senior year, and I was second team all-state. I just wasn't big enough. I weighed 145 pounds, and I was made but I didn't get to play in it, of course, and I would really love to play in the All-State game, but I didn't make that. And then when I graduated from college, I wanted to coach, and I did, and I finally got back where I wanted to be here at Madill. And I was raised here and played here, and I never thought of coaching anywhere else. I had several times I'd been offered the principal's job here, an assistant superintendent's job here, but I said, no, I want to coach. I don't want that. And that was another thing here at Madill. I never dreaded coming to work. I always enjoyed my work, and I coached here 20 years with football and track, and I really did enjoy the years here. When I was in high school, looking at this beautiful field that we're on, and we're fixing to get a track here that's going to be top thing. And when I was here, the field was fine, but the track, they'd come and bring a grader out, and they'd grade around here, and we run on black dirt. Never had a track meet here. We didn't. Our coach, I learned a lot from my coaches that I'd had, what not to do. And our coach never worked us out a time in track. Well, I'll take that back. My senior year, at the regional, I qualified for the state meet, and I won 200, 220-yard dash, long jump, was third in the 100, and we were second in the 880-yard relay. Well, the coach come out and said, well, since we're going to state, we're going to get in shape. And we hadn't worked out any. Well, he run us in 220s every day. And by the time I got to state track meet, my legs were so heavy till I couldn't do anything, and I didn't. And I learned right then, that's not the thing to do. And of course, if you run track, if you know anything about track, the week before the regional or the state, you just go through things. It's sort of like a Thursday on football. You don't get out and knock heads on Thursday in football. Well, you don't do that on track. So that's one of the things that I learned here at Madill. But I'm still very proud to be here, and of course, that up there was the best.
Being named?
Yes.
The stadium being named after you?
Yes, that was the greatest honor for me and my family that I'd ever had, and I was very proud of it. And I come to all the football games that I can. I don't go to the away games unless I'm going to get a ride with a coach going up there, because at 80 years old, I don't drive at night in Oklahoma City.
I don't blame you.
I don't even like to drive in the daytime in Oklahoma City. And
Coach, how do you remember so many details of every team that you've ever coached, every player you've ever coached, every situation? How do you remember all those things, all those details this far out?
I'm sure that it's ingrained into my brain. Now, names, I'm terrible with names, but with football games, I can think back and think of the good games and the bad games, and it just, I guess, the way that it is, you know. My biggest problem right now is with names, first names. I can't remember a lot of first names, but and we had a lot of good football players here, and a lot of good athletes here at Madill. while I was coaching. I'll have to say one thing, that when they come out here, they knew that they were expected the best that they could do, and most of them did. And we had a good time. Most of the athletes that I coached will come up and hug my neck and say we had a good time. We enjoyed it all. And I'm sure it wasn't when I got in their face. And sometimes I did that right there, and when they made a mistake. And but once I did that, then I'd hug their neck, because it wasn't that I was mad at them. It was wanting them to know that they'd made a mistake, and if they made a mistake, they need to learn what they did wrong, and because that's what mistakes are for, is to make you better. If you make mistakes, don't be ashamed of it, but you need to learn from that mistake, and the next time you won't make that mistake.
What do you hope to leave as a legacy? As you know, you've retired now. You're still part of the community. Like you said, you go to every ball game. You see all the athletes, all the track meets. What do you hope to leave as your legacy as you've retired and move on into your later years?
Well, I think I worked hard, and I was fair. I don't care if you were the All-State or whatever, and you made a mistake, I'll let you know it. You know, I didn't just pass that over. And that was one of the things that I wanted to instill and make men out of young boys, was to do the best you can do. And that's all you can do.
Now, looking back on this, 1988 was the last time Madill football defeated a number 1 team. That was in 1988 against the Outer Bell Warriors right here on this field, even though now it's turf. Mm-hmm. How exciting was that for you and your staff?
Oh, it was
players.
It was something, you know. We were a mediocre team, but for some reason, at times, that's the way we played, was mediocre. But we had that year, I never knew what they were going to come out, whether they were going to come out mediocre or good. And that game, we were good. We didn't do anything. It was very simple. We were running a unbalanced line, sort of wishbone is what you want to call it, but we didn't call it that.
Veer?
Here at Madill. And we run the fullback on a counter dive, right straight up the middle. And he made all 3 touchdowns for us. They never stopped that. And that made them, they were playing way above their head, our team was that night, because they were really an outstanding football team. And I remember that very good. The next week we went to Atoka, who had an average team, and got our tails beat. We made some mistakes. We didn't come out playing like we should have. And like I said, I never did know. That year we were 5-5 throughout the year, won second in the district, played, I want to say like it was Chakotah, I believe, that we played in right here in the first round of the playoffs, and played a pretty good game, but we got beat. And I'm not for sure about whether that's Chakotah, but that's what sticks in my mind, is that we played Chakotah in that playoff game.
Now, how did you select your offense that you ran when you were coaching here? How did you select your offense?
Well, that's what I knew the best. You know, you don't coach something that you don't know everything that every player on the team is supposed to do. And I knew when any person was not doing what they're supposed to do. And so that's what we did. And I'd had that, well, I learned that at Marietta. I learned a lot of my coaching, and a big part of it, from a coach at Marietta who his name's on the stadium also, Bob McLean. I was there at Marietta for 10 years, and the first year I was there, we come over here and played Madill. Madill beat us. And then the next 9 years, we beat Madill every game, 9 straight years. But we won 2 state championships and a runner-up while I was there at Marietta. And it wasn't not much on my part. It was Coach McLean that did that. And we had some Division I football players, and that makes a whole lot of difference also. And so that's where I learned a lot of coaching, and the defense and the offense, I brought it over here. And we were fairly successful with we usually were very, we would do pretty well in nearly every football game that we did. We didn't win them all, but we, out of the 20 years, we won 125 ball games and lost 85, which is not a great record, but it was a pretty good time.
8 district championships.
Yeah,
with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then you won 2 playoff games, correct? 74.
Yeah.
And 1991.
91.
Yeah.
Got in the playoffs, into the second round. But a lot of the teams that we had, for instance, when Stuart Bond was the quarterback for us in 1973, we were undefeated on the
83?
83. And we were 9-0, and Durant come over, and we got beat in an overtime. Well, we had a good football team, and guess who we got to play the first ball game? Ada. And we were tied through the first 3 quarters, 7-7. And then we made a mistake, and they scored, and we had to throw the football, and we weren't very successful with that, and they beat us 21-7. And then in 1974, we had an excellent football team, and guess who we played the second round? We beat Fox the first game, and the second one was Millwood, and they went ahead and won the state that year. In 1981, we had a very good football team, and we didn't win the district. We were second and had to go to Salisal. Well, Salisal won the state, and every time we had a good football team, when we got into, of course, that's making excuses, but we played well in all those games. I know Salisal, they beat us 10-3, and that was the lowest amount of points that they had made the whole year, was the game that we played them.
So you've been really gracious in joining us today. I appreciate your time and effort. Incredible knowledge that you have about the Madill football program. We appreciate you stopping by And is there anything else you want to mention before we leave this interview, and so that you can pass on to younger students or younger athletes?
Well, I can say one thing. Anybody that's got the field, the track, and the football, I would be running over myself trying to get out here to participate in this wonderful setting that you have. If you'd look back in the 1950s when I played, it wasn't, it was about like everybody else, but it was just, when we had that old dressing room back up here, you probably can't remember it. We moved into this one in 1981, and this dressing facility here. And I'd done everything I could do to try to get us a dressing facility, because that one had been there since the 1940s. And we were dressing in it in 1980. And it was a little bitty thing. Well, it wasn't any bigger than that concession stand. And we had to lift weights in there, what little weights we had. And then the visitors had a place about as big as this right here, out of bounds. And they usually would go in and dress 10 at a time because they couldn't get in there. So this is a wonderful, the guys that are going to be on this, and girls in track and soccer, it is just, I still really can't believe that we're going to have such wonderful facilities here. And that's what I would tell every student. Oh, why aren't you down here playing in this with soccer, football, track? Baseball field over here is one of the best around. And you'll never forget it. As long as you live, you'll never forget the experiences that you had in that. And I think right now you've got some of the best coaches that has probably ever been here at Madill, and they can really help you and make you into good citizens.
I'm going to go back to the 1984 All-State game. You coached in that, and there was a guy named Troy Aikman. Did you interact with him in that game, or
no
afterwards?
I didn't. There was 4 coaches, and I was what I coached here. I coached the offensive line and the defensive line, and that's what I knew, and that's what I coached up there. But of course, Stewart did. Stewart had, I'm sure he talked with him and visited with him, and Stewart played, and he was our punter, and then played some defensive back, and kept us in the game with his punts. Stewart could kick that. Well, you've seen him kick the ball. He can kick it outside, and he was. If I'd had 11 football players like Stewart, we'd have won every game that we played, because he was dedicated to whatever he's doing. A track, not many would have done what he would do. Run on 2 relays and 3 relays, I believe, and then run the 800-yard dash. On top of that, he had lots of guts. He sure did. He was a good athlete.
How satisfying is it for you to see your former players, your former students, have success beyond graduation now, in real life, in careers, in families? How great is that for you to see?
Oh, it's really a blessing to me that maybe I had a little bit about them doing what they're doing. And of course, Coach Vargas there and Coach Robertson, I coached them. And then Brad Osteen at Lone Grove, I coached him also. and plus Stewart, and Stewart down in Texas right now, and that's really something that I enjoy seeing and talking with them.
We appreciate your time, Coach Smiley. We wish you only the best. Come back and visit us anytime. We appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today and talk about some football.